Loudon Reimert is being worked on by Cozze. Cozze is under him down the backstretch. Frank Cozze's had a fast car here tonight. He'll slide in front of him and Cozze to fourth. And it's Goulart under Danny Buck, and he gets him as they pass Dean Metzger. So Goulart moving ahead of Danny Buck, and Mike Goulart will lead at the start-finish line. So Goulart taking the lead on lap number 10. And he will open up a couple of car lengths on Danny Buck in lap traffic as he puts a lap on and Wade Hendrickson to the pits. Goulart lapping Steve Young, now working on the one of Phil Unglert, and he'll put him a lap down. Dale Ross has caught Danny Buck. Buck now slips by Steve Young. Frank Cozze by himself in lap traffic. Loudon Reimert is fifth. Brandon Grasso sixth. David Van Horn seventh. Dominic Buffalino is in the eighth position in the 126. Jack Butler ninth and Ryan Creighton is 10th. Ryan Godown runs 11th. Johnny McClellan is 12th. Bucky Kell 13th. Chris Garback 14th. And John Almec is 15th. Goulart leading the way. He was close on many occasions this year. Only cracked victory lane once. That was back in the beginning of May. But went on to win our championship here in New Egypt Speedway, and he continues to set a fast pace. Some heavy lap traffic will be coming up if we don't have a caution. Danny Buck running a distant second. He's got Cale Ross putting on the pressure. Frank Cozze weaving through lap traffic. Cozze is closing in on third place, Cale Ross. Cozze continues to set a very fast pace in the 401. Brandon Grasso is past Loudon Reimert for fifth. Grasso into the fifth spot. Reimert sixth and trying to hold off Van Horn. Rest of the top 10 remains the same, although Godown is closed in on Creighton. Cozze clearing a lap car. Goulart is up to 5 cars to lap, and they are packed together in front of him. Corey Fleming and Ron Klein, and then 3 wide in front of that with Almec, Ryan Forte, and DJ Hunt. Goulart's going to enter that whole mix. He gets by Fleming, under Klein, trying to make it 3 wide with Klein and Almec as he tries to lap these cars. Down the front to complete lap 19. Buck had closed in a little, but he's still not that close, but Goulart will put a lap on Ron Klein now, so 3 of the 5 cars behind him. Great job by Mike Goulart. Goulart down on the bottom, and he will get DJ Hunt and Ryan Forte in one move down the front, and he will clear all 5 cars and put them between himself and the next 3. Cozze has caught and passed Cale Ross. He is on Danny Buck's back bumper. Frank Cozze might be the fastest car on the track. He is second now as he goes by Danny Buck. Cozze to second, the 401. Buck third, Cale Ross fourth, Brandon Grasso by himself fifth, then it's Van Horn and Reimert, Buffalino, Jack Butler, and Ryan Creighton. Godown and McClellan are 11th and 12th. Cozze in heavy lap traffic. He will work around some cars. He is about a straightaway behind Mike Goulart. As Goulart really worked that lap traffic to perfection. Cozze was able to get by the competitors he was chasing before they got to the lap traffic, which was big for him. Cozze now really needs some help here. We are only 1 lap from halfway. There is plenty of time in this race. Grasso closing in on Cale Ross and Danny Buck. This will be halfway. Halfway is out as Goulart crosses the line. Here comes Cozze in lap traffic to complete lap 25. Buck, Ross, and Grasso all in a freight train right now, 3rd to 5th. Van Horn closing in on that group in 6th. Reimert a distant 7th, and Buffalino, Jack Butler, and Ryan Godown is going by Creighton for 10th. Cozze continuing to work in the 704. Corey Fleming a lap down, or a lap down. Goulart had already done that, but now Cozze by him. He clears him, dives under Ron Klein going into turn one. Klein able to hold him off with his momentum. Cozze coming up on all three of those cars. Klein, Garbach, and Forte. Cozze right up on their back bumper as we complete lap 28. 28 laps in the book. Just past halfway. Bottom line opens up. Cozze zips by both Garbach and Klein and comes up on Ryan Forte. Meanwhile, Goulart puts three more cars another lap down and working on 12th place John McClellan. Mike Goulart lapping Johnny Mack. Mack back on the outside trying to take it back. 30 laps in the book. The regular feature has been run. We have 20 to go. Cozze trying to find a way by Ryan Forte. He's been unable to do that. Cale Ross has gone by Danny Buck for third. Ross is third. Buck and battling. He's got Grasso and Van Horn all over him. And those three cars all right together battling for fourth. Cozze getting by Forte. Dean Metzger is right there. And Cozze makes contact with Metzger. He came up on the outside of Metzger, and I don't think Metzger knew he was there. Metzger not used to this track and may have gone in a little higher than Cozze thought he was going to. Cozze clears him and pulls away easily. Goulart is a little more than a straightaway ahead of Cozze. Cozze running a solid second right now. Cale Ross is a distant. Oh no, he's not third because Van Horn has gone by Grasso, Buck, and now Cale Ross. And Van Horn to third. Cale Ross is fourth. Buck is clinging to fifth with Grasso underneath him. And Brandon Grasso makes the pass down the front. Grasso to fifth. Buck back to sixth. Reimert is seventh, Buffalino eighth, and they're the only cars on the same lap as Goulart has lapped ninth place Jack Butler. Krachin is 10th, Godown 11th, McClellan 12th. They are all lapped by Goulart. Cozze is all by himself in second. He is more than a straightaway ahead of third place David Van Horn. But he's more than a straightaway, or a little more than a straightaway behind the leader, Mike Goulart. Goulart in some heavier lap traffic, one of which is Dominic Buffalino, running in the 8th spot, and Goulart puts him a lap down, but as lap cars shut the door, and Buffalino works back around, and whoa, Buffalino got into one of those cars. That's Jack Butler, who's running for position. No, I'm sorry, it's DJ Hunt. They've already passed Butler, who's right behind him. Goulart getting around home, and Goulart threaded through that. Mike Goulart through that. 12 laps to go. It'll be 11 this time. Only 7 cars on the lead lap. Reimert has passed Danny Buck. Top 5 remain the same. Reimert is 6th now. Then the 7th place runner is Danny Buck, and he's got Goulart closing in on him. Frank Cozze is straight away behind the leader, a little bit more. He hasn't closed in at all. Krachin is off. Ryan Krachin, who was running 10th, is pulled to the infield. 10 laps to go, and it's soon to be 9 as Goulart works through turn number 4. Goulart under Danny Buck, looking to lap 7th place Danny Buck. Buck slides up. Goulart will take the spot, put him a lap down. Only 6 cars left on the lead lap. Mike Goulart has turned this into a lapper. Goulart completing lap 42. Off at turn 2 and down the back, and he's closing in on 6th place Loudon Reimert. Cale Ross and Brandon Grasso have a great battle going on for the 4th spot. Ross has a lane on the outside right now as they're held up by Steve Young. He'll get around Young, going into turn number 3. Grosso decides to go up to the same groove. Right behind him is Reimer and Goulart. Goulart, the leader, now under Reimer. 6 laps to go, and looking to put 6th place Loudon Reimer a lap down, and he will. Frank Cozze all by himself in heavy lap traffic. He has no pressure coming at all from the back, and he has no shot right now with 5 laps to go to catch Mike Goulart, unless something happens. Goulart to the outside of Steve Young again. He'll put him a lap down. Only 5 cars on the lead lap. Oh, Ron Klein slams the fence, but he kept on going. He kept on going. Him and Bucky Kell got together over there, and he bounced off the fence. Klein getting back under Kell. Goulart out of turn 2. It'll be 2 to go here in half a lap. Cozze mired in heavy lap traffic. Off the corner, 2 laps to go for Mike Goulart. 2 laps to go as he looks to lap Corey Fleming again. Mike Goulart has lapped all but the top 5, and he has 5th place Brandon Grosso in his sights, but he won't get there. Yellow's out. A yellow flag. Goulart with 48 laps complete, I believe. R40 Orion Forte is off. Ron Klein in the 6, a right rear flat from that contact with the fence I was talking about a few minutes ago, when him and Bucky Kell got together and he bounced off the fence entering turn 3. Got a right rear flat, and there's Ron Klein heading down the pit gate and into the pit area. So Mike Goulart, we have 2 laps remaining. Goulart had over a straightaway lead and a bunch of lap cars between himself and 2nd place Frank Cozze, and Cozze now will find himself on the back bumper of Mike Goulart. Now, Cozze has been very fast coming through, but has kind of leveled out and was not closing in at all on Goulart as they both diced through lap traffic a straightaway apart. Cozze had left everybody else behind. David Van Horn had come through a lot of cars, got to 3rd, and he was a straightaway behind Cozze in 3rd. Cale Ross and Brandon Grosso had been battling for 4th and 5th for 4th. They were just ahead of the leader Goulart when the yellow came out with 2 laps to go. So only the top 5 cars are on the lead lap. If you look behind the first 5 cars, they are all lapped, but they are battling for position. So Reimer leading the battle for 6th place over Danny Buck, Dominic Buffalino, Jack Butler, and Ryan Godown. That is the back half of the top 10. They are in the right positions on the track. The only thing you have to remember is if they go by any of those first 5 cars, they're not advancing their position because those cars are a lap ahead of them.
And we got to wish happy birthday to Dirk down there in turn 4. And Isabel, get down here, because I heard you've been talking some smack. Come down here, Isabel. Your mom wants you.
All right, it'll be green, white, and checkered. Pace truck is off. Frank Cozze looking for the start right behind Goulart. Goulart brings him down and we're green. Van Horn's right there as well. It'll be a shootout. Cozze to the outside of Goulart. Goulart holding him off as they move down the back. Lap and a half to go. Into turn number 3. Cozze on the outside. The Wind Gap Warrior up on the outside of Goulart. Side by side down the front of the white flag. Cozze again drives it in hard. He's got a good run coming off at 2. Goulart trying to hold him off. Into turn number 3, Cozze sails it in alongside of him. They are side by side through turn 4. Cozze up on the outside to the line of photo finish. What a finish at the line. And they'll check it on the tape. But legend driver Frank Cozze here on Legends of the Fall may have pulled off the upset on the last lap. I had said Cozze had been really fast. It was a drag race.
From Niagara to the Hudson, from Champlain to Erie, from nuclear to farming, High Torque of New York is your one-stop shop for torque tool and industrial bolting needs. Easily loosen or achieve accurate torque and bolt load with pneumatic battery or hydraulic powered units. Serving every industry, mining and aggregates, transportation, energy, structural steel and rail. On-site torque wrench calibration and repair, sales and rentals, training, bolting solutions, and more.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Monday Night Modifieds here with Mike Mallett alongside Matt Smith. And Matty, nice to see you again. I actually just saw you like 24 hours ago, so it hasn't been too long.
Yeah, it was a good turnout for the show this weekend.
Yeah, the show was a good time. I had some fun. You spent some time there, obviously, all day Saturday, but great to see race fans coming out. I mean, I think that was one of the busiest shows I've seen in a long time. You know, on Saturday with people just coming out and enjoying, not a nice day, but a nice day to go to a car show. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was super cold. The weather really sucked this weekend, but it was I thought it was a good turnout. You know what I mean? I thought there was a lot of people there, a lot of people I didn't really recognize, and then a lot of racers and race fans that you see at Brewerton and Thunder. So yeah, it was a good weekend.
Yeah, you got a lot of compliments on the race car when you weren't there, or when you were walking around doing your thing with the baby.
Yeah, we didn't do anything with the wrap different this year. We stuck with the same body style as the big block car last year, so we'll have two of those. This year.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Frank Cozze, can I call you? Well, Frank Cozze, hopefully you're calling us in a little bit. Eric, if I give you Frank's number, can you give him a call? This is a live show, so I'll have you give him a call. Frank and technology. So how did the rest of obviously you guys went out to dinner, had some fun after the show the other night? So you guys
there was a whole bunch of stuff going on this weekend up in Syracuse. They had that wrestling tournament, and there's a group of family friends that a lot of their kids were in that tournament, and we tried to link up a little bit better. It didn't quite work out because they were wrestling really late Saturday, and just were able to meet up with a couple of them. But we did stay up there and hung out with them for a little bit, and yeah, we had some fun.
It's amazing to me the crossover between racing people and wrestling. And I'm not talking like high school wrestling, amount of wrestlers I know that race, et cetera, or have involvement in racing. And then also the actual WWE, but that's fake wrestling, but it's still real to me because I'm not doing it, so I'll count it. But wrestling is a huge deal. And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we got an extension of racing family, I would say that they have a huge family. They've got like 7 or 8 little kids that come up to Thunder Mountain whenever they're able to. It's Jeremy's family, and then his nieces and nephews. But I think like 5 or 6 of them wrestled this weekend up there in Syracuse. So it we tried to line things up. Didn't work out quite the way we wanted to, but it was cool to try anyway.
Yeah, we had fun. We met up. Everybody had a good time. Again, the car show is always a good time. I think the thing that's fun about going to car shows is you get to hang out. Like, there's no stress of being at the racetrack. There's no like, hey, hurry up, we got to get the car ready. We got to get things going on. We got to do this and that. Like, you're just kind of there to hang out and to bull crap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool to see some new things. It's not typically like your old school normal where there was things that you didn't get to see until the show happened. There might have been 1 or 2 of those things, but there was a lot of stuff in there, a lot of race cars. That body that Corcoran put together was really cool.
Yeah, if nobody saw that, just to give you a little bit of detail, basically what they did is they took black aluminum and they laser etched the wrap into it. So instead of having a wrap on the car, they actually just lasered it into the aluminum, and it looked badass. And then for the nose piece, they put Lexan and made an all Lexan nose piece, so you could see like inside the car. Like it, Jeremy does some innovative stuff and does some cool stuff. That was a really cool looking race car.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. He goes, yeah, I really want to run it. I don't know if I'll get any crap for it or if it's even legal or not. I said, well, if you try it and get crap, then so be it. But no, it's honestly really cool. You get sprint cars and late models where you can kind of see the engines and whatnot. And I mean, there's nothing exposed with our engines, not even the air cleaner. So it's kind of cool that he's got that for show, and we'll see if it hits the track or not.
Yeah, you never know with Jeremy. That's the thing. You never know. You never know with him what he's going to do. But I know he was happy with the show. I chatted with him a lot yesterday afternoon as we kind of wound things down, about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And he was really, really appreciative of all the people that came out and supported the show. Like, I was shocked. I mean, they opened those gates at 10 a.m. and people were flowing in. I mean, flowing at 10 a.m. Now, you know me, I am not a morning person. That is not my MO. But I would like the record to reflect that I have made it. I did make it both days to the show before the opening bell. So we were good there. We were good.
Yeah, they were really busy Saturday. When I got there, I mean, it was not stroller friendly, and then you definitely couldn't walk too wide through there. So they were packed right in there, which is good for Jeremy. Yeah,
no, that's good. That's good for Northeast Racing. And I think one of the cool elements that they added this year is a lot of drivers brought their T-shirt trailers. Mm-hmm. I know Alex Payne had his T-shirt trailer there. Matt Shepard's T-shirt trailer there. Peter Britton's T-shirt was there. So that was pretty cool. All of that was really, really cool to see those guys. Get that in there and give the fans a chance to go up and a lot of those guys hung out there. So, give the chance for the fans to kind of catch up with them and chat with them and so on and so forth.
I agree. It's kind of like a collect-all for, racers. I think, what'd you say, there was 3 or 4 apparel trailers in there, and then you got your racers that are all walking and talking throughout that show. So it's kind of cool to, it is a racing venue, but we're not racing like you said. So it is cool for all the fans to come out and see their drivers and talk for a little while, not be pressured to get back in the car and spend some time with friends, family, and sponsors at that show.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we've talked a lot about, right? How do you get more interaction between fans and drivers? Right. And I think that there's probably no better way than the car show because you don't know who's going to be walking around. You know what I mean? You don't know. Like, I spent a lot of time yesterday with ESS driver Denny Peebles. We chatted a whole bunch. Just catching up on things. Again, you see these guys, and it's a brief moment when for us, if you're working at the racetrack, so or if you're racing like Maddie is, it's nice to be able to just sit down and talk to them and chat with them and kind of things like that. Oh boy, Eric, you think he's good? Do you want to get right to it, Maddie? We want to get him right in here bright and early.
Yeah, I mean we might be past your bedtime with this guy by the sounds of it.
So let's bring him on in, Frank. Hey there, Frank. You ready?
I'm ready.
Hey, you got it figured out. Well, actually, I know who figured it. Your wife definitely figured this out.
No way.
There was no way you were figuring this out. I think you still got a flip phone over there.
Well, I still do. How'd you know?
I know you well, Frank. I know you well. So how are we doing today, Frank, on a wonderful Monday? I would say wonderful, but it's really not because it's just going to crap for us up here. But
Yeah,
how's it
it's
going,
okay.
man?
It's okay day. Mondays,
Yeah.
it's the start of the new week, so we got to go forward.
Now, are you home or are you still enjoying the warmth of the Sunshine State?
No, I'm home.
Pennsylvania. Sucks to be you, man.
Hard life.
We're all stuck up here.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for warm weather.
Yeah. I think it's coming, just not tomorrow for us. I don't know what you guys got working, but it's not supposed to be too nice here tomorrow.
No.
But well, Frank, obviously you got some things going on this weekend. You set the world afire, and we'll jump right into it when you announced your Sportsman deal and some of the crazy rules and changes and purses you were going to do. So for those wondering, Frank's paying less to win, but more for third. So Frank, talk about the idea, how you came about. How did you get the idea to do that? I know you and I chatted when you first were thinking about it, but talk about the process of going through and exactly what you're paying and what you're doing.
Well, it was, we promoted a racetrack in 1988, my family and I, Nazareth Speedway to be exact. And up until that point, I'd pull into a racetrack, never look in the grandstands, didn't care. Didn't matter to me. We were racing and we were going to get paid at the end of the night. And after we promoted for a year and took a bath, I started paying more attention to what the promoters were going through because we knew firsthand what it was all about. So that always has started my thought process when I go to a racetrack and I look in the stands during the night and I go, well, this guy's going to make money tonight or this guy's taking a beating. Mm-hmm. But, most of our competitors don't realize that. They just show up. They know they paid to get in and they're going to race and they're going to get paid at the end of the night. And all the other BS that goes along with it really goes over their head. So I've always kept that in mind every racetrack I've ever gone to since then. And I got looking in the stands more and more lately, and they start getting pretty sparse at a lot of shows. And I always figure these are not good nights for the promoter. Mm-hmm. And then I got thinking, for our race, maybe we'll try something different. This isn't going to be a steady diet. Nobody wants to see this every week, I don't think. And just something different. We're always doing the same thing. I do remember my first or second year of racing, which I don't want to say what year that was, but it was
before Matt and I were born.
1974.
In 88, and it was definitely before me.
1974, Flemington started running reverse races. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. So we lined up and drove around the track opposite from the way we've always gone around the racetrack. And they were kind of a hit, it was something different. And it didn't last long. And eventually the motors couldn't take it because, the oil pans were backwards and so on and so forth. And guys didn't want to do it. But they did try something different. But if you think about it, have we tried anything different ever? Hardly ever. Don't know of anything that we've really tried out of the norm, other than different laps, So I got thinking, what could we try that could be possibly different that would still be really interesting to the fans and possibly to the drivers? And I thought about what division to do it with, and I decided that the modified division, it would never go over. But I could probably sneak it in with the 602s because they're pretty open to anything and they're all pretty hungry for money. Mm-hmm. Not that the modified guys aren't, but so I just came up with this. I was riding my bike in Florida, my pedal bike, my motorcycle. I don't have a motorcycle. And I was riding my bike and I got thinking, why don't we I started out at fifth, paying $10,000 for fifth. And I decided I'll move it up to third. And let's take it from there. And I'll run it by Doug Rose, who's my partner in this race at Bridgeport. And he liked it. So we thought we would give it a shot. We spent a considerable amount of time on sponsors. Mm-hmm. I put my glasses on here so I can read them. So the format is it's not difficult. The base pay is 3,000 to win, 1,500 for second, 10,000 for third. Okay. And I have it broken down. I got to get all my notes here because so I have a halfway bonus for the third place car of $1,000. So at lap 50, if you're a third, you get 1,000. And I did that for a simple reason. I want every racer that's in the race to maybe come up with some strategy, since this is totally new, and see how you're going to figure out how to run third. If you're second, do you want that 1,000? If you're leading, one thing we have to remember, most nights there is only one winner. So once you know you're not going to be the winner, now what are you going to do? Are you going to run second, or are you going to run, what are you going to do? That's going to be the interesting part. That's what I thought would be interesting. You're going to have your guys are going to go for the win, but at some point in the night, you're not going to win, most likely. So we did that, and then with 2 to go, we made another $1,000 bonus for the leader, just so we had somebody fighting for the lead, fighting for the win. So a big note is the winner does get 3,000, and if he plays his cards right and is second with 2 to go and is third at halfway, and with all the contingencies that we have, he can walk out of there with close to $10,000, and so that's really not a bad deal, I thought. And that's basically what it's all about. Will we do it again? I'll let you know after Saturday. I don't, we did not get the car support, and I kind of thought we might not. But I was willing to take that risk. We did get enough cars for, a field. But it's a cut and dried situation that we need to try something different. I don't, if I can get a few more fans interested in it, who knows, maybe we can do it again.
Yeah, we had a fan asking, how many laps is it?
It's 100 laps. We don't take a break at halfway, none of that kind of stuff. We just race the whole 100. There's, basically, other than third place is the big winner, everything else is your basic 100 lapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Originally, when Mike mentioned it, I was like, "What, is he crazy?" I'm like, I thought the goal was to always obviously win. There goes the air compressor.
Nice job, Matty.
Sorry, but no. Now hearing the structure that you have, that the guy that's still winning still has an opportunity, like you said, if he plays his cards right, to still almost match what the guy in third is going to win. I still think it's pretty neat the way you got it set up.
Well, and think about this. Everybody always complains that these long races put all the money on the head. And they do. It's 25,000 to win, and then you look, it's 5,000 for second, something crazy. So I decided, well, we'll stop all that, and we'll just make third place where all the money is. And so now they can't say, oh, you guys put all the money on the head. Well, we didn't. We put all the money on third place. And he can still make a lot of money. He can make 3,000 if he's good. He's got a good car. And if he plays the strategy right, which I don't really know what the strategy is. Everybody keeps saying, they're going to come down for the checker and they're going to jam their brakes on. Nah, it's not going to happen that way. It's going to be a race for the lead, and it's going to be a race for third. And the second place guy's going to have to figure out what the hell he's going to do.
Right.
Is he going to try and win it? If he's a half a straightaway behind, you better start thinking about backing up and starting over again and get to third. It's going to be interesting, I think. We'll see what happens. We don't want to ever cut these 602 guys short. I talked to a lot of those guys, and there's a lot of pretty smart racers in that division. So I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Talk about the promotional side for you. You kind of mentioned Nazareth and all that and doing that, but you've been in this promotion game a little bit. I mean, you started with kind of a big street stock race, and you kind of morphed it here into this sportsman race.
Yeah, I always wanted to do a big street stock race because I thought that was a really, the bones division, the guys that, the real hobby racers. Not that I'm not a hobby racer, but they were real hobby racers. And there's some serious ones. But I thought, let's give these guys a shot and see, how we do with it. And it just couldn't get the rules right. There was so many different, we had guys from Texas, guys from Virginia, guys from Indiana, and, they all came in. We went over the rules with them, and then they came here with a car that was totally illegal. So now I had to make a decision on what to do with them. So, we told everybody we're going to put weight on them, and that's what we did. And, but they still ended up having superior cars and winning the races. So, I just didn't, I didn't really feel like, I wanted to, continue along those lines. And there's so many 602s, and, let's give these guys, cause they race basically for nothing every week. They spend a lot of money on their cars. They buy tires like we buy tires. They got motors. Their motor cars are cheaper, but still they don't have that option for one big pay and show. I don't really know what the next big pay and show they have other than ours. So that's how we ended up actually with the 602s. Now I had done some different things with the street stocks. I had made a rule where you could run anybody the first street tire car across the finish line for my street stock race got a $2,000 bonus. Mm-hmm. And I got 2 cars came in with street stock or street tires, so, you can only try these things. You can't, you're not guaranteed you're going to work. Didn't bring any more cars in. So
right.
Here we are.
Yeah, I know that feeling. You can do everything you want to do, but right. It doesn't matter.
No.
Let's talk about rules in general. You and I, obviously, we talk a lot. We've talked a lot about racing and about the direction of racing, where racing's going. And you and I have chatted. Like, what do we need to do, in your opinion, to kind of bring cars back, bring people back, bring racing back?
Mm. Well, I think you and I have both agreed that Northeast modified racing in general is in a little trouble. Mm-hmm. It's got problems. And they need to get it straightened out. 19 and 20 car fields aren't going to cut it. Mm-hmm. How do you fix it? Well, we're all every racer out there is guilty of what's happened to the division, because we're all spending more money than we're ever going to make. Mm-hmm. And that as soon as that starts, well, the whole thing goes haywire. Now it's always been like that, and it's always gone. Prices have always gone up, not down. The spec division is a good division. That's what we have down here. There's no big block races down here. If you don't go to Orange County for those races, then you have to go into New York or into Delaware. I don't even know if Delaware has that many other than Georgetown. And so the spec racing has pretty much narrowed down the motors. They're not 60,000 yet, but they're getting up there, more than I think they should be. But on the other hand, everything's more expensive, and the labor part's expensive and the parts are expensive and the motors don't last as long as they used to. And you have to lean on those motors harder than a big block, so they don't last quite the laps that they should if you're serious about it, so the biggest thing is we've made the car so aero, and we've made the car so locked down that you can use more motor. And so if you can use more motor and you're going to be serious about it, and this is what your life's going to be, you're going to go buy the best you can get. Mm-hmm. And so if one guy does it, then everybody got to follow, or they won't be a winner. And that's the way it's always been. It's no different. It's always been that way forever. I really don't know how to fix it. Truthfully, if I was in charge of everything, I would cut the tire size down to half the size it is. And let's eliminate the need for 900 horsepower. And that would solve a lot of the problems. But, is some guy that's spending $100,000 on his race car going to want to put an 8-inch tire on it? I doubt it. So
probably not.
we're all guilty of it. We want to go faster and we want the best thing you can afford to put on your race car. So there's a whole lot of probably good ways we can do that, but let's cut the tires down. Number one, it's like I always say with the sprint cars, they got 5x5 wings. We'll cut them in half, but they'll never do that. It won't look right, So you put an 8-inch tire on a modified. I remember when we had 15-inch tires and we went to 13s and everybody went, "Oh, that don't look right." Oh, now that's the norm. So, it'll be the norm or we won't have any racing eventually.
Right.
We got to get more than a 15 or a 19 car field. Fans want to see race cars. Fans don't care what it costs. They want to see races. They don't want to know that you had just spent, $50,000 or $60,000 on a motor. They want to see a race. That's what they want. Well, we got to have fans and we got to have race cars or it doesn't work.
Right. I mean, I think at the end of the day, cars bring fans, right? The more cars in the stands, the more fans that come, because whether you're related to the guy, know the guy is your neighbor, whatever, that's going to draw you to that racetrack.
More cars bring fans and more name cars bring fans. You got to have good names. People still want them, the younger, this new generation as they're good drivers and, fans want to see them, that's the way it is, the way it's always been.
I got some more stuff I want to talk to you about, but we had somebody ask you, Dan Coe here asked, does he have any plans to race this year? And if so, where and when?
I mostly stay close to home. I really don't have a race team to travel with. So we kind of stay, in our little area here. I only really run spec races because that's basically what I have. But I will go into New York for a few races, if possible. Have a big block car and a spec car. So, but mostly Bridgeport. Bridgeport's got a pretty decent schedule where they race, kind of like every other week. And I'll go to some other shows local, and that's about it.
In Eastern States?
Eastern States, of course.
That's
I go to 31st lap.
That's right, buddy. That's where we solve the world's problems every year.
Only takes 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah. Yeah, Pete Vortman said Monster Bash. I've already tried that, Pete. I've already tried to get him to come up to New York. I've tried. I'll keep trying all summer though. Don't worry, Frankie. You're not off the hook yet, buddy.
Yeah.
But talk about the New Jersey scene right now. You guys used to be the hotbed. You had Flemington, you had East Windsor, you had New Egypt, you had Bridgeport, and others. But now, Bridgeport right now, that's it. It's kind of scary, even like New Egypt. I always look at New Egypt as one of the premier facilities and racing. I'm not knocking Bridgeport, and Bridgeport's a beautiful facility too. But you look at a place like New Egypt and that goes away. That really hurts, the racing in your area.
Yeah. It gets us down to one racetrack. That's not a good thing. Well, it's good for that one racetrack, but I really don't know. It's not like New Jersey surely isn't a poor state, so there is some money there, and there are some dedicated racers that only race New Egypt. I don't know what they're going to do now that it's closed. It's I really don't know how to answer that question other than if a promoter don't want to open it if it's not making any money, then that's his right to close it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we had someone, Sean Graham mentions it, got to raise the purse. Now, you've raced a long time. I know to me, I feel like purses matter to drivers when they matter, and other times location matter. Like there's a whole bunch of factors that go into why guys race and do what they do. Purses are part of that, I think, but they're not always the majority of the reason.
No, in the 90s, the racers raced wherever the money was, and even in the early 2000s. But I think it's gotten so expensive that racers really pick and choose where they feel they're going to run good, where they have a chance of making the show, or, a lot of other factors. Is it a nice weekend? I'll go camping. I don't race for points, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Money is not the biggest factor anymore for most guys. I'm not saying for all of them. Guys that race for a living are going to go where the money is. Guys that race as a hobby if it's difficult to drive to Lebanon Valley for a race, even if it pays a lot of money, if it's difficult, they're just not interested. They'll just stay close to home. That's the way it is. So paying $50,000 or $75,000 to win a race anymore is a iffy thing, because you have to get that many people to cover that purse. It's scary. It's a scary thought, and I don't think you'll see too many of them anymore.
No, and that's kind of stinks. I mean, that was what kind of modified racing, heyday wise, that's what it was built on. You had those huge paying races, but again, I think you're right. The last few years we've seen all these tracks try these big purses, and they still get the same amount of cars, regardless of the fact that they're paying all that money.
Right. It's hard. I mean, it's great that they can pay that kind of money, but it's not sustainable. It's just not with the fan base that we have. You got to remember, look in the stands at a lot of racetracks, a lot of old fans in there. People have been going forever. And I will say, like, I ran 410s for a couple of years out in the, Williams Grove, Lincoln, and all those tracks. And their fan base was a lot younger, a lot more kids than I see at our races. And that's probably not a good thing. When your fan base gets old, who's going to take their place?
Right. I think, you talked about the racers chasing money, and obviously, like you said, we definitely want to chase the money to a certain degree, if it makes sense to us. But I think by and large, the biggest supporting factor to our racing is the fans. So what do we have to do to get the fans in the stands? And then what is it that draws the fans? I mean, social media is huge nowadays. And then obviously the product that they see, what is it that's the most entertaining to them? Is it, paying, what you're doing or trying with the heavy third place finish, or is it having a bad fast track? Is it a super slick track where everybody's slicing and dicing all over it? We don't really know those answers, or else everybody would be thriving, but I think, like I said, by and large, I think the fans are number one. They're kind of the cure all. So it's, you could screw up a racetrack on any given night and have a bad product, but at the end of the day, the promoter's happy, the racer's happy, they got paid, and we can fix the rest of it. Yeah.
I mean, social media will bash almost anything. You got your fans that like slick racetracks. I like slick racetracks, especially to watch a race if it's a good race. I want to see side-by-side racing. I want to see somebody come from the back. They're all the things a fan wants to see. So it doesn't really matter to me if it's super fast or slippery and slow, as long as it's a good race.
Right.
Go on social media and they'll complain about a slick racetrack, because down here we don't. If anybody down here thinks that we have slick racetracks, they have never been to New York. So, you know what I mean? When you can actually track and read the car number off the racetrack of the car in front of you because it's so shiny, that's slippery. And down here, we never have that. So, down here, everybody is just flat in the gas pedal. And, so I don't know what these fans down here, if they would like going to Weedsport. Now, Weedsport's probably one of the slipperiest. And last year I saw some pretty good on TV, some pretty good races there, because it's slippery and slow. Fast racetracks do not normally produce very good racing, because cars, everybody's good. They fast racetracks make up for a bad handling car, and everybody goes fast. But slippery racetracks start bringing back some of the technology in the car, and driver ability and your setup ability. And, fortunately or unfortunately, you look at the times and of the field, the spread is very small now. Used to be, you could be a second and a half faster than some nights, but now everybody's within a half a second, 6'10", 7'10". It's pretty tough to pass when they're that close, So now you see a lot of guys, if they start 10th, they're in a panic and 50 laps. Man, I don't know if I can make it. I look at it the same way. It's so hard now. It's not easy. The cars have gotten so close. The technology it's in a book. Buy a Bicknell car and you get a book. As long as you can read, you can figure it out. So that's made the racing. It's made the racing hard, really hard. So it's easier for the newcomers, but it's sure hard. Everybody's going the same speed. If you're not a full-time racer today and you can't sit in that shop all day, I don't care what it is, But if you're in tune with your race team, what's going on in your shop, you're going to struggle because it's very hard. And you can see, I mean, in my heyday, when we raced, the series had 12 to 14 full-time racers in it. That's what they did, and it was tough. I mean, it was hard. You had a good night. If you came from 10th and finished 5th, that was a pretty good night. If you ended up win one, you were ecstatic because it's pretty hard to do against that, those guys. And we have the same thing today. You know who they are. They're good. They're good drivers. They're smart, and they have good equipment.
Matt and I have debated on here a bunch, the left side Panhard. What's your thoughts on it, being an old school guy? Matty's a younger guy, came up in sportsman, been racing modifieds a handful of years here. But what's your thoughts? We've gone back and forth. I know the newer guys all love that left side Panhard. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, just a quick, my thought really is the 200 lapper at Orange County. And I've run a lot of 200 lappers in 50 some years I've been racing. That's the tiredest I ever got out of a race car. And I'm not in bad shape. I'm not in 20-year-old shape, but I'm pretty decent shape.
Well, you were just riding your bike, so you're obviously in shape.
Yeah. So, I got out of the car and I was like, I'm beat, and my car wasn't super good, but it wasn't terrible, but I was still tired. And because you're hanging out of the seat all night long, you go down in the corner, if you'd have ever saw a car in the 90s or early 2000s that rolled over like our cars roll over now, you would go, that's a screwed up car. But now it's just the norm. And, young guys today, that's what they know. That's what they started in. They're used to it. And so the left side Panhard bar doesn't, but it's nothing new. I had a left side Panhard bar in 1986 that we had a car. We put a left side Panhard bar on. So it's not new, but we didn't perfect it. It made the car so tight then we couldn't turn them left. But we didn't have the shock packages, we didn't have the tires or the knowledge that we have today to make that car fast, But it definitely did what it was supposed to do. We just didn't know how to harness all that information and make it work, for us. So I haven't run a right side Panhard bar since we started the left sides. I haven't had one on the car. The cars all got short rods on them now. It's I don't really know that it's going to make that much of a difference. Cars move around so much and you're hung over on the right side so hard that I really don't know. I'm going to find out because I'm going to go to a couple tracks down here that you have to run them. You got to run it at Diamond and you got to run it at Grandview. So, we'll see what happens. Everybody I talk to says they really haven't noticed that much of a difference, but I can't believe that. I mean, I would think that you would really notice a difference. We'll find out.
They're not going to tell you anything, Frank. Come on.
No, probably not. Probably not.
You know how racers are. Nobody's telling the truth when you're telling each other stuff.
No, if they're talking to you and they lick their lips, they're lying. That's what I go by.
It's tough for me to decipher, whether there's a huge difference or not, because my first year I ran right side Panhard and torsion bars. And at the time we were running super soft American racer tires. So you're running a 33, 38 in the rear and you really couldn't, you always felt traction with those. So then, we switch over to the left side stuff in Hoosiers. There's a little bit of different feel there with the Hoosiers, actually quite a bit different, but it's just tough for me to be able to say, yeah, it's a huge difference. You've obviously been able to experience it way back then before all the shock technology and spring or torsion bar technology was available. So, obviously people should probably value your opinion a little bit more than mine, and especially being that I've only been racing for 7 or 8 years, but I can't really speak on the whole Panhard situation.
Yeah. Listen, probably most guys like the left sides. Don't. But, like I said, I really can't answer. I mean, I remember being on a right side Panhard bar, but we were on torsion bars. So
have you noticed any different lap? So have you been racing last year that they mandated it down at
No, I haven't gone to a right side pan hard bar track yet.
No.
So, I did try it one night at Bridgeport, and I got to tell you, it wasn't any good.
Yeah.
It was.
I wondered what the lap time difference is, or I haven't really talked to anybody, down. I think it was it Grandview that Grandview and Big Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I haven't really heard any talk about lap times or anything like that towards the end of the night, when it typically, or what we're told, is when the left side gets better.
Yeah, they got some other different rules. The left rear rod's got to be in a certain spot. Can't be, it's got to be a certain measurement where nobody else has that rule. So maybe that slowed the cars down some. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I think they had a lot of different winners there last year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really pay super close attention to it, which tells me that there wasn't an abundance of passing from the back, because you got to start 15th when you win there. I think the next week's closest you can get to the front's 15th. So that tells me that maybe the passing wasn't that good as it. And I had talked to guys that said it's kind of tough to pass. So who knows? I don't know.
Right.
But that could be the racetrack. Which Grandview normally makes their racetracks and Diamond pretty much the same every week. It's not like a mystery like some tracks. So
right. So we have some questions coming in from some fans here. Joe Fay asks us, what can tracks and promoters do to introduce new racers to the sport when the costs are so high with racing? Is there anything? I mean, I think the thing we've lost is really the entry level division, right? I don't really feel like there is that entry level anymore. I mean, where did you start out, Frank? Kind of what division, and how did you kind of progress your career?
Well, I started out in what would be considered the 358 division, but there was no 358s then. They called it the 320 division, because that's what it was, which would be the same, because that was either you race there or you race modifieds or you race street stocks. So that's where I started. But you got to remember when I started, and then I was just thinking about it today because I knew you were going to ask that question. When I started, basically everything in the race car came out of a junkyard, other than the rear and the fuel cell, because we had to have a fuel cell. In Jersey, you had to have a fuel cell. So the rear came from Franklin, and every other part of that race car pretty much came out of a junkyard. Front axle, spindles, brakes, the whole 9 yards was junkyard. Salvage. We'll call it a salvage yard, since that's the business I'm in. That's where because I remember as a kid, my father saving all the Ford truck front axles for the racers. So they had front axles, So, and me and my brother were lucky because my father had a 100-acre salvage yard, and every time a Cadillac or a big Chrysler or anything came in, me and my brother would raid all the gas out of it and the shocks off of it, because that's where the good heavy-duty shocks were, and they had the high-test gas, because you didn't have racing gas, you got pump gas, and then you went and got aviation gas and cut it. So you had a little more octane in it, and that's how you raced, So it was easy for us to start out. Didn't cost you anything to race. You went after the races at the racetrack you were at. You went through, and all the modified guys got rid of their tires, and you picked through the good ones, and that's what you ran the next week. That's not going to happen anymore. That's not going to happen. If you don't have some money behind you, parents or a rich cousin or uncle, to start today, almost impossible. I mean, it's tough. You know what I mean? And so how do you bring a young kid into this today? Is unless you have that behind you, how you going to start? I mean, think about putting a brand new race car together today. Brand new from front to back's got to be close to 40 or more. I don't even know. I mean, it's very expensive. Not most kids at 18 don't have $40,000 hanging around, and if they did, they probably aren't spending it on a race car. So, if they don't start in the street stock division, that's where they got to start. And can they go up from there? Maybe, but it could be a long, hard haul to go any further. So, yeah, it's pretty tough, and that's a lot of the problem. There's no way for them to come in. And I don't know that. I think 30 years ago, Dirt tried to have that race car they built. They all were the same. I think Troyer built them. and they thought that was going to take off, but it didn't. Fizzled out. It's just hard. It's hard today.
Yeah, I was actually watching an episode of This Week on Dirt, and it was one of the episodes that they had that like test at Weed Sport, talking about the cost and how cheap they were and how you can get into racing for $6,000 and all this other stuff. So it's funny you bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good idea. But
Yeah.
It just didn't catch on, and so here we are.
Yeah.
If you were going to go racing today, you're going to spend $100,000 for a car and a motor, and to go race, right?
Yep. Yeah, right. If you're going brand new, out of the box, ready to go, right?
100,000, isn't easy to come by for most people.
Nope. So let's turn the change the subject a little bit here. You brought up Williams Grove and racing 410s. Now I love your 410 stories. Talk about the reason. I know this is Monday Night Modifieds, but we're going off on the tangent on the 410s. Talk about why you went 410 racing. Then you ran it, for a handful of years, and then you came back. Like, talk about just doing that, what that was like for you, and you got your win. I know you wanted to win really, really badly. You got that win. Just talk about that whole experience.
Yeah, the rules had gotten to the point where, I think I went to not Utica, Rome, somewhere for a 358 race, and they made me take my hood off and they measured the height of my intake. And I knew I pitched a fit because I never even know it was a rule there. I don't even know it was some kind of rule like that. And then they started measuring my body, and I was like, fellas, I just drove 4 hours here. My body is beat to death because it's the end of the year. So it may be an inch off here and there, not because I cheated it up. Just I'm trying to, Zeus it back on the car to come here and race, and you're beating me to death. So I got tired of that, and I knew a lot of the 410 guys, and they're always saying, you ought to come out here because all you got to do is have your wings got to be 5x5, and your front wing can't be more than 20 inches in front of the front axle, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that sounds pretty interesting. The mistake I made was go jump right in 410s because I went to Lincoln for the first night, and I scared the shit out of me when they took off because I never drove them before, really. That was Lincoln, went to Lincoln, and I think we went to a Sunday show right after that at Williams Grove. And we came in, and I pulled the pole in the heat. And my brother said, what are you going to do? Maybe you ought to go to the rear. And I said, hell no, never give up a pole. And I remember they threw the green. You think they had the stripe there you got to take off or something, I forget. And by the middle of the backstretch, I was last. And I went down the corner, and I thought I was going fast, and they went driving by me. I couldn't believe it. And it was just crazy that first year. Took to the end of the year, I started getting to the point where I could get some decent finishes. But it was, that's a different breed of people. Different breed of fans, different breed of drivers. They don't, you don't see too many fights because everybody figures you got me, but I'll probably get you sooner or later, and not on purpose because they just, you drive them things. You don't have time to think. If your reflexes are off, you might as well quit. It was a lot of fun. I wish I had started in them because I'd have stayed in them because there was basically no rules. The night I won, they came over and they said, well, we think you got a 410 in there. We're not even going to pump you. I mean, that's crazy, I get it. They got to have rules, but it was easy. It was easy.
Flashlight, look at it. That's a sprint car. You're good.
Yeah, really. You're gonna tip over sooner or later, or you're not going fast enough, or you're not trying hard enough. So you just make sure that when you start tipping over, you pull your head down as close to the steering wheel as you can, so the wing tree don't hit you in the back of the head. And I didn't know that the first time and got smacked pretty good. So after that, every time I knew I was going over, I just yanked my head as close to the steering wheel as I could get it.
Talk about the Port Royal crash with Federer. That's still, I told this at EMPA. It's my favorite story. The first cut of your car when you flipped out of Port Royal.
Yeah. Well, it was one of them things where somebody screwed up. I didn't, not that I don't, but this particular time somebody screwed up and I ran up over their tire and took off. And I remember thinking I I was in the air pretty good, and I opened my eyes, and everything was upside down, and I figured I must be upside down. And I landed out. In the pits, and the car's destroyed. The wings beat down around. I couldn't even get out of it. First guy who lifts his head comes out, runs out of the pits, and gets up under the wing and lifts my shield up. It was Fred Raymer, and he goes, instead of saying, "Are you okay? You get hurt," he goes, "How'd that feel?" I mean, that's when those guys are, they're different. They're different than us.
I love that story. It's so good.
He didn't ask me if I was okay. He saw my eyes and he went, "How'd that feel?" And I was like, I said, "It didn't feel good." They were they're different. Mm-hmm. Great racers, but they're different.
Yeah. Yep. Now that you told those stories, we can get back to the modified racing now. But I always love to talk a little sprint car with you. You've won a lot of big races. Which one, Super Dirt Week you tried and tried and tried. Talk about finally winning that one and some of the ways that you guys, maybe used to, read between the lines in the rules.
Yeah, we never cheated, and that's true.
Yeah.
But we just went where we worked on what the rules didn't cover.
Right.
And that race, I remember, we were terrible all week, just qualified in the heat. And, but when I realized, and I was to the point where I wanted to take the car home and put it in my car crusher. That's how aggravated I was. Cause you put a big effort in to go, you got to get all your people there. You got to get the rooms, you got to feed them. You got to, what it is. It's a big expense. And I was very down in the dumps after the heat. So down in the dumps because Mike Perotti drove around me going in the first turn on the outside. And boy, that really got to me. And
you guys are buddies.
We're really good friends, and I know he was laughing when he went by me. And I said, But no, once I found, we came in and they went through the fuel while I was sulking in my toter home. And once I found out that the mileage we were getting, and I was totally different, because I said, we got a shot at this because nobody's going to get that kind of gas mileage.
Right.
And we honestly, I run the same fuel tank. I still have it. It's in my big block car. It was not a cheater tank. It was just, the thing was I didn't have any power. And I told my motor builder when he built the motor, don't build me with something with a lot of torque because I can't drive them kind of motors nowhere. Mm-hmm. And he did a good job on not building torque. But, and when they ran it on the dyno and he said, it doesn't make a whole lot of power, but it don't burn no gas. And I was like, I'd rather have the power because I got to get in the race. But after we got in the race and I found out that we could go we figured we could go 135 laps on a tank of gas. Mm-hmm. And my gas guys were really good. They really were on top of it, all the time, checking it. Mm-hmm. So once you got that ace in the hole, you got to have a little luck here and there. And we did because I think Decker was down a cylinder. You know how good he was there. You didn't want him behind you if he had everything working for him. And, but, he blew up and he just happened to, hit it right on the lap, on the stops and everything. And, it was a good feeling.
Mm-hmm. How good did that feel after, again, you see the video of you and Danny Johnson coming together, and that ending your chances there, and then having this finally happen. I mean, that had is that a career defining win or what is that?
No, I never looked at it like that. I was more like, it's just a monkey off my back. You go every year, you put a big effort up and you come home with nothing. In '89 with that deal there, it didn't hurt so bad because we had led halfway, and I think it was a lot of money that year for halfway, and so that kind of paid for the trip. Of course you want to win the race,
right?
And I have always blamed myself for that incident because my guy on the radio kept telling me where he was, and he kept telling me, whatever you do, don't give him a shot at you. And I just didn't, I didn't cover my tracks. And, he wanted to win too, can't totally say it was his fault. but I should have covered my track, especially at that part of the racetrack, and I didn't. I left myself open. Something was happening in front of me, lap cars or something, and then I thought, well, I'm going to move around a little, see if I can get a run down the backstretch, and I just made a mistake and let him get there. And that's a bad part of the racetrack. There, it was so tight. The backstretch there was wicked if you didn't hit it right. So to come back in 08, a lot of years later, and finally win the thing was it was a great feeling to get that everybody says if you don't win that race, your career isn't, but I don't think that way. I just thought, just finally to get the win. My dad was there. It was nice. My dad was still alive, so it was great to have him here. He'd been going every year since they started, because he had cars in the first 3 or 4. So yeah, it was a good feeling. But not to talk about sprint cars, but the 410 win was hard, and that was a really good feeling too. That ranks up there with some of my best. How I felt after a race. And the funny thing was, I had a kidney stone when I won that race, and they came over to interview me after, and I had an attack right in my trailer, and I laid me right on the ground. I just roll up in a ball till it goes away, and can't do anything. But it was a good feeling.
I can't imagine that interview. Hey, Frank, can I talk to you? Hold on. Let me get my recorder going. And you're laying in a ball.
Yeah, I'm laying on the ground. And my guys were like, well, he's got a kidney stone. I was lucky it didn't happen while I was racing, because anybody's ever had one knows they hurt.
Yeah. No, you did break Matt's heart there, because you said you beat Billy Decker, and that's his favorite driver.
Yeah. No, Billy's a good friend. He's a great driver.
He's told me about all the highs and the lows of that place, and I never went, but you can kind of almost feel what some people were feeling when they explain how long they've been going there, and just the disheartening and disbelief that they had to go through when they had bad luck happen to them, or you have a bad run, or you thought you had everything you needed to go, and then it didn't end up going your way. It was. I don't know that there's really too many tracks nowadays, if any, that kind of pulled at you the way that place did.
No, well, it was the place. It was happening. It really was like it was one big party and a race broke out. That's kind of the way it worked there. And it's not that they were great races, because they weren't. It was hard to pass. But, you got all those people in one area, all dirt track fans. It was different. I've been to Oswego a few times, but, I know they have to have a place to have the race, and they're not going to have it on a mile, so they got to have it somewhere. Oswego is a good place. It's an old place. It's kind of cool, but it just doesn't, you don't get the same feeling that you did. To me, it just felt like another 200 lap race. But, at Syracuse was, different live pit stops. So, it wasn't all we're going to stop you and everybody gets a chance to freshen up. It wasn't that kind of deal. So you had to really work on a lot of stuff there. We used to work on our pit stops. Honestly, working the shop on them, trying to get the right guy in the right spot. And I think it did pay off finally once. But, we did live pit stops at Orange County and Rolling Wheels. We wasn't like it was a one race deal. We did 6 or 7 200s during the year.
So Jimmy Wisner asked, was that win at the mile with a PMC?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they were really good there. Those cars were, Pete's probably the best fabricator I ever met. And his cars were meticulous. And boy, that car, I had run that car all year as a 358 car, and I sat in that car really good. I really liked the way I sat in that car. And we had talked about taking the new car there or taking that one. And I said, I'd rather take this one because I sit in it so nice, that the seat for some reason was just right for me. And then you put it in another car and it didn't right. So I said, no, let's run this car. And so kind of worked out,
Of all the places you race that are closed, which one do you miss the most?
Reading.
Yeah.
Reading was, you'll never know what it was like.
I never got there. I know that was one place. Nazareth, Reading, at Flemington, I never got to.
Reading raced on a Friday. They started at 8. They were done at 10. One division. You went there pretty much not having a problem, because if you did, you were pretty much screwed. So
Right.
everybody went there prepared. And the guys that raced there. That's where the only place most of them raced. They didn't go anywhere else. So you raced against the same guys every week. And the track was always had a cushion and had a bottom. And that's every week there was good races, I mean, not that there hasn't been other racetracks, but that was my favorite of the ones that have closed. Now, I liked rolling wheels when it wasn't dusty and you could actually see the car in front of you. And I like most of the Canadian tracks a lot, which unfortunately I don't get to go to anymore, but they're all pretty good up there. They're different.
That's a different level of fan up there too. I mean, I don't think they have as many tracks as we got, but the fans that come out, I mean, those places when the series goes up there, they are packed.
Right.
Packed.
You can't get no more people in them.
No.
It's pretty amazing that they, but I've been, I raced Cornwall steady for 1 year when I drove for Sheldon LeGuy. And, Sunday night track, standing room only. And he didn't need a series race, because I used to ask the promoter, and he'd say, I don't really need a series race. I just have it for my drivers. I forget who the promoter was then, but he says, look, you can't put no more people in this place on a Sunday night, But Cornwall's, the track is right next to Cornwall, all those people. So, yeah, it's a different deal up there. Different.
Talk about doing that. Like that used to be a thing. Like we don't see it much anymore. But guys like you, Steve Payne, Mike Romano, I mean, all you guys used to tow up there or go up there and race for car owners. I mean, what made that alluring for you to do and make those trips?
It wasn't alluring, believe me.
Because Cornwall for you cannot be easy to get to. Just for me,
8 hours.
Yeah,
8 hours in the motorhome with 4 kids. So we would go up there from Middletown. We'd leave right after Middletown on Saturday. So that was 2 hours closer. So it was a little bit better. And but then after the races were over, we would have our kids, have all their school clothes ready to go and get changed on the way home. And so in the morning they could get up and go right to the school bus stop. I did it with Sheldon because we made a deal that he would run all the North Series races, all the Canadian tracks, Can-Am, all those tracks, anything up by the border. And but the deal was I had to drive for him on Sundays because he needed a driver. So I figured, what the heck, as long as I don't got a tow up there. We had the motorhome, my kids would go. They were all small then. So, we had a good time. It wasn't like it really wasn't a hassle, but it was a long ride home. My wife and I had it down so we could drive and switch drivers without ever stopping. So in the motorhome, we had it down pat. So, but we drive home and forget that we even went through Syracuse because you're so tired.
Right.
It just was a long trip. But I knew a lot of Canadians, and when we're up there, when we used to race up there, we used to stay at Burt's. Burt's Transmission, and so I had a lot of Canadian friends up there, and I always enjoyed racing up there. Good racing.
Obviously, still friends with Bert because I think I still see it on your race car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Been friends with Bert a long time. A lot of people on my car for many years. Many, many years, 20, 30 years. It's pretty long.
Greatest driver you ever raced against? Guys like to ask this question. So who's the greatest one you?
Well, you got to go through different eras.
Oh, you can go. You can do it however you want because you're Frank Cozze and you're a Hall of Famer, so you can say whatever you want here, Frank.
I mean, in the 70s and the 80s, 70s at Reading, Kenny Brightbill. I really believe there's anybody better than him, and he was good everywhere. Gerald Chamberlain, those guys. They were really good. They were great drivers and really smart guys. And then we got the next generation of Hearn and now, one of the best race car drivers I think I've ever raced against, and this is only my opinion and might not be of others, but I thought when he was always in the right equipment, he was really good, was Alan Johnson. When he was in the right equipment, he was pretty tough to beat. And, of course, Bob McCready. there's no way to answer that question. But I always thought those guys, and that's what they did for a living. And but Alan could pretty much, when he was in the right car, go anywhere and win. But so could Bob, and so could Brett, and so could Danny. So how do you really measure it?
Yeah, you bring up those guys. We go to, obviously you and I hang out a lot, Eastern States. That's our one time we really get a chance to catch up. But talk about racing at Middletown weekly and what it was like during that era. I mean, you had Danny, you had Brett, it was like a who's who every Saturday.
Yeah, they were tough to beat. We did occasionally beat them though, but they were good. They were good drivers, Hearn could win about anywhere, and so could Danny when he was in the right equipment. So Middletown was just one of them places. Kegel was the promoter there then. The track, you could basically at Middletown, when I ran there, you could start 18th and win. It wasn't super fast. They had it just slippery enough where you could actually race on it. And not like it got in later years where it got so blistering fast and then and then you couldn't really race on it. But in those years, if you had a good car, you could actually, could race with those guys. That was a fun place. I really liked there. I raced there, I think, from 92 to 99, and I had a lot of fun there.
What was it about Middletown that drew all them drivers, to that place? Because I mean, I'm not sure how close everybody was, but it doesn't seem like everybody was, within a half hour, 45 minutes of that place.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of racers in that area, basically. And once the place kind of closed down, they didn't really go anywhere. So a lot of them still have their stuff and still go there. As far as guys like Danny coming there and all, Freightliner was right there. Freightliner was 15 miles from there, his car owner. So, was kind of easy for them and all. Car owners don't usually care if you got to drive 3 or 4 hours, just show up and drive, especially if they're paying you. And I'm sure he was getting paid enough. So, yeah, it's all about money when you race for a living,
So Jamie Weekduck did bring up a story at Eastern States, and he mentions, how about when you ended up in the parking lot outside of turn 3? If Rusty Smith's throttle hung or something like that, and he got into you and you went for a ride?
Yeah, I think we took a telephone pole down. Of course, the telephone pole was probably 200 years old, so it didn't take much to knock that down. Got out there and knocked the wind out of me, and all I remember is there was some kind of electric line running there, and the junction box was swinging right in front of me, right I could touch it. And I didn't know where the hell I was, and there was fans standing there, because they were walking down that little road there. And so I got these people standing there, and this electric box swinging back and forth in front of me, and it happened so quick that I didn't really know what happened, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't get the wind. I got the wind knocked out of me, and it was kind of hairy there for a few minutes till I figured out exactly what the hell happened, And that place there. When it's fast, it's fast. You can launch one there pretty good when it's fast.
So Terry Commanda says, I helped with the 12T thumb. Rick, it was sad after Davey passed. You made him so happy when you won the halfway money for 10 grand. So thank you for the good time.
Yeah. I could tell you a lot of stories about the thumbs. We don't have a lot of time here, but
we can go as long as you want, Frank. I got to be honest. You're telling good stories, buddy.
Thumbs called me to drive for them to go to Syracuse, and I didn't really have anything to go with. And they had a new TO car. I only remember who built the motor. And I got them a tire deal. I got somebody that paid a tire bill and the fuel bill. And I got them all passes to get in through CarQuest because that was my sponsor, and that's all I had to do was put CarQuest on the car. Rich Pillai was with CarQuest then. And so they were ecstatic, that basically was I got them rooms through CarQuest. I got them the whole deal. All they had to really do was show up with the car. I actually went out there with my 2 sons and worked on the car for I think we were there a couple of days, get the car ready. And we ended up timing, I think we were 5th quick. And they were, I was happy. I was happy for them. Of course, I'm happy because I don't have to really depend on getting in through a heat. And so normally when I drive for somebody that I don't know, I never leave the car ever. I stay with the car, and I never, because I don't know them, and I want to, especially there where the walls are really thick and they really hurt when you hit them. And so, but I happened to leave the car when I got talking to somebody. I was, not by the car. And I had kept practicing with the car after we had time trial, and the car was really nice. And it really was. I remember it drove so nice, and I'm thinking, a little luck here. We got a shot at this thing. And so I said, do you want to run the heat race? Because we didn't have to run a heat. And I didn't know how good their motor was. I didn't know, could it make 200 laps, because I really don't know the people. I know them, but I don't know them. And they said, no, we want to run a heat race. I said, all right. Well, I ended up leaving the car and came back, got in the car, went out, lined up, started outside because I was fifth quick. And outside, not really a place to start there. And but I got a really good start. Drove down in the first turn, and that thing shoved clear to the wall, turned left. I turned left, and it was going straight, right? And hadn't done that all week. It drove nice, really nice. And, of course, I'm using a lot of cuss words as this is happening because I don't want to hit that wall there. If anybody ever looked at that wall, it's 2 foot thick. It isn't going to move. You're going to move. It ain't going to move. So anyway, we ended up third, I think, in the heat, and I came in. I get out of the car, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, well, check the stagger. It didn't move. Nothing moved. And finally, I looked at the rear spoiler, and they had changed the spoiler, put a big spoiler on and lipped it forward. Didn't tell me. So I went off on Rick, the father, because it was Rick, the father, and it was Davey. Davey got killed in the accident, and another son, and a few other, that fellow there, and a few other guys. So I went off on Rick, and how I can be when I go off. And
just glad it's not me.
Right. So I grabbed my stuff and I left. Figured got to go. I better cool down. So the next morning we get to the track, and Davey, the brother that got killed, he was a big boy, a lot bigger than me. He was probably about 6'3", probably close to 300 pounds, and big. He wasn't like a fat guy, And he came in and. I figured, I better be nice, because I was pretty bad like the day before. And he comes over to me, and me and him got along really good. I really liked him. And he put his arm around my neck, and he goes, I really like you, and I think you're a good driver. But if you ever talk to my father like that again, your front teeth are going to be in the back of your neck. I'll never forget it. And I went, and I looked at him, and I went, well, you're a lot bigger than me, so I'll never talk to your father like that. Promise. But they were good people. They had a farm way out in Pennsylvania, and we went out there, and they were just, they're farmers, and they really had a good time. And they were fun to drive for. I actually drove for them the next year. I drove for them for 2 years, I believe, at Orange County. Mm-hmm. And they drove 5 hours to get to Orange County. It's not like they were around the corner,
Right.
So they were dedicated to doing it.
Leon and Andrus asked about your win at the Victoria.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to drive for Bernie Smith, who was the number 33, and I had been driving for him at Orange County in his small block car, not his big block car. And we overheat every week. We were having overheating problems, and they couldn't get it fixed. So one night, I said after a heat race, the thing is running 260, like almost pegging the gauge. And I said to the guy that ran the program there, give me a roll of duct tape. I'm going to fix this heat problem. And he goes, well, how are you going to do that? And I said, just give me the duct tape. I'm going to fix it. So he gives me the duct tape, and I said, now cut me off a piece about 2 inches by 2 inches. And he cuts it off, and I took it and stuck it right over the temperature gauge. And I said, there, it's fixed, because obviously you can't fix it. Well, anyway, I guess I hurt the motor, so I shouldn't have done that. I hurt the motor when it got hot. And I was supposed to drive for them that next week in the Victoria race. And they called me up on a Wednesday and said, we're not going. The motor's hurt. So I've been driving for these new guys at Windsor. these two brothers wanted to have a race team, never had a race car, didn't know anything about it. So I sold them one of my old cars, and I called them up, and they were very well off. They had a good business. And I said, "You interested in going to Victoria 200?" And they said, "Hell yeah, we'll go." They didn't even know where it was. They didn't even know what it was. I said, "Well, it's 200 laps." "Well, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, that means it's 200 laps." Now, we're used to racing 25. It's a lot more than that. So they said, "No, we'll go. Get whatever you got to get." So I called Billy Pouch, and I said, "Give me the tires I got to have." And he gave me what I needed. And because I wanted to buy more, and he said, "No, just get these, because he had won all the races so far. He won for 6, I think.
Yeah.
And we went there, and we just the car was so good that it was one of the easiest races I've ever won. And I do remember after the race, it was a Windsor car, so it was super light. We had ballast bolted all over the thing, to make weight. And they scaled the car. It had one of them big scales that had wasn't a readout scale, it was like an old or regular scale. And they stopped I was 5 pounds under when it stopped. And one of the guys at the back of the car wasn't my guy. I didn't even know who the guy was. Puts his foot on the scales and it went over. And the guy goes right away, "You're good. Take it off." I'll never forget that. Ends up the guy worked, because I went over to try and find the guy later, because I figured I better say something to this guy, and went over, and so I got to be friends with him. I don't want to say his name. He may be watching because he's from up there. And I said, "Man, I really want to take care of you." He goes, "Oh, just buy me a hot dog or something." That was it.
And you also, wasn't that the race you took home 200 cases of Paps?
Well, the guys that brought the car up there, they were pretty much partiers, not the car owners.
Mm-hmm.
The two guys that brought it up, and we got 200 cases of Pabst Blue Ribbon. And I'm leaving it because we left there, and we drove to we had a 200 lapper at Canandaigua the next day, and it's me and my dad, and we're driving down 57 or whatever the road is there. Mm-hmm. I see this trailer ahead of us that's sparking. I see it sparking like the chains or the safety chains are dragging on the ground. Now, these guys had an open trailer. They didn't have an enclosed trailer. They had just an open trailer because they had just started racing. They hadn't bought an enclosed trailer yet. They did eventually. We're driving down there. I said to my dad, "This guy looks like whoever this is. They're trailer's dragging. Looks like it's dragging on the ground." I'm getting closer and closer, and I'm looking, and I'm going, "God damn it. That's the car I'm driving." And I get there, and there's 200 cases of Pabst Blue Ribbon in the back of this pickup truck, dragging on the ground. I'll never forget it. They had Pabst for the next year. Every time we went into Saturday, And I really like beer that much, so not me any. Yeah, I think I was a rookie of the race. Then I got an extra 500 for rookie of the race. I thought it was pretty funny.
Couple more questions, then we'll let you go here. Kenny Bruce wants to hear the story about you getting hired and fired in the same day.
Well, I've been hired and fired a lot, but I got fired. I got hired at 9 a.m. It's a Chamois Shine car, number 90. And I believe Kenny was driving it before I was. It was a pavement car, the pavement. They had a pavement car. They called me up and they said, "Oh, I got to come to the shop. We need you to sit in the car. And how much do you want to drive it? The normal questions. And, what's your setup, blah, blah, blah." And next thing, that was 9 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock. They called me and said, "I'm sorry, you're fired." He doesn't even drive it yet. I say something wrong, and they went, no, we decided to go with somebody else. Well, yeah, whatever. Business is business. But I've been fired by mail, been fired, got letters, you're fired. Fired by phone, all the ways you get fired.
A lot of questions. What's your favorite racetrack? We talked about Reading. What's your favorite place to race now, and what's your favorite New York track?
I really like Weedsport. Mm-hmm. Never won a race there. Then I think that's why I would be determined to keep going there to win a race there, but I just never had a good enough car, or I was never good enough myself, when you get up there and race against those particular guys that race on that kind of surface all year round. We're down here looking for more power, and they're up there trying to find motors they can actually drive. It's kind of hard. So that would have been one of my favorites. I really liked it there. It's not super fast and it's not super slow. That's but just never could win a race there. As far as down here, I like New Egypt. I raced Bridgeport. It's a great place, beautiful place. Doug Rose did a great job with it. I'd say it's one of the better ones that we have of all the dirt tracks that we race on. Just never been a big fan of high bank racetracks. Lebanon Valley, great place, got great food, got great race fans, but I could never like going there. I used to actually start to get the dry heaves when I got on Route 9. Tell you the truth. And it's the only place in New York I was ever thrown out of. So, wasn't one of my favorite places.
I guess that's a story for another day. I'll get that at Eastern States this year.
Yeah.
Great food, great racing. Got thrown out. And got
great fans. They had great food. They had really good food. But the racing, I just never could get into it. And there's some good racers come out of there, and there's some good racers there. It's not like it's just the one thing. I love every racetrack, and I don't hate that place, but I really never really like racing there.
Pin and flinging son of a bitch. I don't know. Ask Frank about the pin and flinging son of. I have no idea what that is. But it's from James Rutherford.
I don't know.
Laughing,
After 52 years, there's so many stories. I have to write a book to get them all.
So that's what we need, a Frank Cozze book. That book I would buy, Frank.
All memorized. There's just so many.
Yeah.
Rut works for, I think,
Big Fab.
Big Fab.
Yeah.
You see him once a year at Orange County.
Yeah.
He's a big man.
Let's see. Anything else? Somebody asked you what's your favorite chassis. Anything with that? Or whatever's winning.
Yeah. Well, can't answer that honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had Kneisel house car for about 3 years. That was a lot of fun because I got to design some stuff with them and build some stuff that I wanted to have,
Right.
But, now you just buy what they give you.
Yeah.
It's not like you really can tell them build something different. They're not going to.
Yep. Well, any sponsors, anything you want to thank Frank? I mean, I could keep you going here till like 2 a.m. because I love chatting with you. You're one of my favorite guys to talk to, one of my favorite people in racing. But I want to let you, I know it's getting a little late here. I know if this was Billy Decker, he already would have just hung up on us and left. Yeah. So you're doing better than him.
No, I've had some great sponsors over the years, but Harry's You Pull It, and the guy that owns that company is Joe Kress. Has been with me since 2009, I believe, and really couldn't race without them. Bert, of course, Bert's been a great guy. He does a lot of things for me, and I appreciate that. Art Lentini, of course, Jimmy Horton now runs Arts. Arts was a very good friend of mine, and I sure miss him a lot. But
good dude, very good dude.
Yep, he was very close. We were very close. So Dave Ronaldo, who owns some of my race team, he owned a 401 that I ran. Great guy. CJ Jones and all the people at Jones. Those kind of people have helped me. For seems like ever. So I'm really appreciative of those people. Bill Giel, who's another longtime friend of mine, has been on my cars forever. He had a repair shop not far from me. Couldn't have done it 52 years without all those people that have helped me along the way, and I'm very appreciative. I'm lucky, really lucky. I got to do this thing. I never raced for a living. I never had to worry about feeding anybody off the money that I made, and but I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed. I liked racing against Hearn and the Johnsons, and getting on the road with those guys, Pouch and Horton, and just look at the number of guys that I got to race with. How many errors I got to race with some great race car drivers. Bright Bull Chamberlain, Kenny Weld. That's those days. You learn a lot. I never really thought that I would ever be. I never imagined I would win hardly any races when I started. And how it, you win one and then you go, well, I could win another one. And then you just keep going and going. But, it was a hobby. I was always a hobby racer. And I'm glad now at 70 years old that I didn't race for a living, tell you the truth. Kept my business going and, got a nice life and got a good family, good wife. And I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Just make sure you tell your wife I have nothing to do with the price of the pay-per-view.
She's over there laughing.
I hear her laughing.
He's over there whispering at me.
He's telling to lower the price. Price gouger.
Now,
well, Frank, look,
you got to have that thing today because the fans are getting old and they just can't go to the races.
Yep. We try. Yeah. But hey, I think we're going to have to do a Frank Cozze part 2 because I got so many questions here. We could probably go for another hour, but I don't want to keep you too late tonight. You've already been on with us almost an hour and 20 minutes. So we appreciate you, brother. You're awesome as always, man. I can talk to you all day long.
Yeah.
It's usually a little more fun with a cold beverage, but we
had pretty many of them at the
EMPA.
EMPA. I think we never went to bed.
No, we did not. We did. The sun was up, but we did.
That was an all-nighter. That's the first one I had of them in a long time.
Yeah. I'm sure Janice was happy when I opened the door at 6 a.m. to slide you in there.
We would still be walking around there.
Yeah. Luckily, I just started scanning every room. What room are you in? I don't know. Pick one of them.
They all look the same to me.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you, man. Thanks, brother.
Thanks for
have a
having
great
me on.
night. Oh, anytime, man. Anytime. You're awesome, Frank. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, Frank. Maddie, that's why I love Frank Cozze. I always told you the Frank Cozze stories, but man, that guy's awesome. And again, I apologize to everybody. We didn't get to every question that was asked tonight. But Frank is one hell of a guy. It's just fun. And again, we'll have Frank back on. I promise you at some point, we will get Frank back. There's no doubt that we'll have him back because he will do it again. Your thoughts, Maddie? I don't think you've heard much on there.
No, I think there's going to be times where I just got to listen. I'm just as much of a fan with stuff like that as everybody else watching. I'm just lucky enough to be in on it with you and everybody else.
Frank and I go way back. I've known Frank again probably 25 years now, 20 years. Been able to chat with him, and again we've really kind of got to know each other real well here the last handful of years. And it's been a pleasure, and I'm glad we could talk about his race at Bridgeport, kind of let him say, it feels like decades ago we talked about that race. But again, if you're available on Saturday looking for some racing this weekend, of course, Bridgeport's racing, was going to do an STSS preview, but they're running on Sunday. But we talked to Frank about his big race on Saturday, again, basically 3,000 to win, 1,000 for 1,500 for second, 10,000 for the third. And that's going to happen Saturday at Bridgeport. I like the way he did it. Like I said, he, when you said, you can almost win 10 grand if you lead all the wraps. Yeah, Terry, this is on every Monday nights, buddy. When is this on again? It's great. Every Monday nights, 7:00. Some weeks most weeks we try to get a guest on. I confirmed up with Mike Bruno. Mike Bruno will be with us here next week to talk about some different things. He's going to talk about, we talked rules last week with Mike Bruno, or we brought up Mike Bruno and the cost of racing, the cost of sportsman racing. So we're going to have him on here again next week and kind of chat with him about that. I had some other topics, but what do you think? We want to wrap this and end it on a high note, not ruin anything, or what?
Nope, we're gonna end this on a high note for sure.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine. I don't think we could get better than having Frank Cozze on here. That's as good as it gets. That's the stories were worth it. It was a great night. New haircut, Mallett. Yeah, no, my hair. Yeah, thanks, Cooter. Appreciate you, Cooter, busting my balls. but my hair.
That
Thanks,
was
Cody.
waxed about 20 years ago, and it just never
Yeah,
came back.
it never goes away. It never goes away. I do have a little hair growth though, because it's supposed to be 28 tomorrow. And if you have ever been bald, which you haven't, when you put your hat on, if you don't have hair, it slides off. But with hair, it kind of holds it down like Velcro. So I got to keep it on. But we'll wrap it there. You know, see, again, real world problems, Matt. You don't have that problem. I have that problem. All right. Someday you'll be old. You'll have problems too, but I'll let you get there. But that'll be a wrap on this one. Again, we want to thank Frank Cozze. Frank, awesome job, man. That was fantastic. Had a great time. For our producer, Eric Schneck, for my good buddy, Matt Smith. I'm Mike Mallett here for Monday Night Modified, saying so long for now.
From Niagara to the Hudson, from Champlain to Erie, from nuclear to farming, High Torque of New York is your one-stop shop for torque tool and industrial bolting needs. Easily loosen or achieve accurate torque and bolt load with pneumatic, battery, or hydraulic-powered units. Serving every industry, mining and aggregates, transportation, energy, structural steel, and rail. On-site torque wrench calibration and repair, sales and rentals, training, bolting solutions, and more.
DirtTrackDigest.tv is your #1 source for watching dirt track racing live or on demand from anywhere.
Johnson, and they make contact!
On your smartphone, tablet, computer, or TV. DirtTrackDigest.tv is the ultimate streaming experience for race fans, brought to you by race fans. DirtTrackDigest.tv. If it's on dirt, it's on DirtTrackDigest.tv.